She used to call my name every morning, softly as if the sound itself could protect me. There was something sacred in the way she said it, like she was reminding the world that I existed. I remember the rhythm of her mornings. The kettle boiling, the radio humming quietly. The faint scent of soap and warm toast. She would hum while folding the laundry. And between the notes, she would say my name again, as if afraid that silence might make me disappear. Even as I grew older, she never stopped. When I came home late, her voice greeted me before her eyes did. When I cried, she said my name with a softness that made the world feel safe again. And then, one day, that sound stopped. I still remember that morning. She was sitting by the window, her eyes following the dust floating in sunlight. I said, "Good morning, Mom." She smiled, politely, as if meeting a stranger. And she asked, "What was your name again?" It wasn't just a question. It was the quiet sound of a world unraveling. The song that once began my every morning had forgotten its own words. At first, I told myself it was nothing. People forget. That's what we do. We misplace keys, birthdays, words. Surely, a name could slip, too. But then came the small changes. She called me by my uncle's name, then by her childhood friends. One day she introduced me to a nurse as her kind neighbor. And every time, she laughed lightly, as if memory was a game we could play together. Our conversations became shorter. She began repeating questions. "What day is it today? Is it Sunday already? Have you eaten?" Sometimes, I answered twice. Sometimes, I didn't. There were days when she didn't speak at all, just looked out the window, her lips moving as if she was talking to someone only she could see. Maybe she was. The house changed too. It grew quieter. The clock ticked louder. Her footsteps, once steady and familiar, became soft, unsure. One evening, I found her sitting on the floor, surrounded by old photographs. She looked up and said, "I know these faces mean something." Her voice trembled. I sat beside her and began naming them one by one. Her husband, her parents, her son. And when I said my own name, she smiled faintly, but her eyes remained distant. After that day, I started writing everything down. Every word she said, every story she forgot. I filled notebooks with her favorite recipes, the songs she used to hum, the little phrases she said when she was happy, when she forgot her own birthday. I baked the same cake she used to make for me. She didn't know it was hers, but she smiled, and for a moment, that was enough. I began to realize something. Maybe memory isn't just what we keep in our minds. Maybe it's what we keep doing for someone else. Every time she forgot, I remembered harder. Every time her light dimmed, I became her reflection, the keeper of all the small things she once was. I would sit beside her at night, reading aloud her old letters, even though she didn't recognize the handwriting. Sometimes she'd fall asleep mid-sentence. Sometimes she'd laugh quietly at a joke she no longer understood. And I learned to stop correcting her. When she called me Michael or James, I just smiled, because the name didn't matter anymore. The love behind it did. There was one evening, the kind where the sky turns soft and gold. She sat by the window, her gaze lost somewhere beyond the light. I watched her lips move, but no sound came. She looked peaceful, almost timeless. "Mom," I whispered. She didn't answer, so I said it again, quietly, as if my voice could reach wherever her mind had gone. Still, nothing. And then, I realized, I was the only one holding on. I was the one afraid of silence. So I stopped calling her name. I just sat beside her, listening to the hum of the world outside. Cars passing, wind brushing the curtains. The same sounds she used to love. I reached for her hand. It was warm, soft, trembling slightly. I whispered, "It's okay, Mom, you can rest now." For a long moment, we just sat there. And then she smiled. A small, tired smile. The kind that carries a lifetime inside it. And in that moment, even if she didn't know who I was, I knew who she had always been. Years have passed. The house still carries her presence. In the scent of her old scarf. In the teacup by the window. In the faint indentation of her chair cushion. Sometimes I still talk to her. Not out loud, just quietly, in my mind. When I forget where I placed something, I imagine her voice teasing me. Check the second drawer. And sometimes when the afternoon light hits the wall just right, I can almost see her shadow. Her hands folded in her lap. Her smile faint but kind. I've stopped waiting for her to remember me. Because I finally understood. It was never about that. Love doesn't need memory to exist. It's enough that it was once real. Now, when I whisper her name, it isn't to remind her who I am. It's to remind myself that I was loved. The house is quiet again. Only the wind moves through it now, stirring the curtains like gentle ghosts. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I swear I can still hear her voice, calling my name, softly, like she used to. Maybe it's not a memory at all. Maybe it's love, finding its way back through time. And maybe, as long as I remember her, somewhere, somehow, she still remembers me.